Okay, just showing you how to use Excel to produce a graph with this data. So over here on these couple of cells here, I've got the formula generated by my graphics calculator. So y equals ab to the x, where a equals 69.4183336 and b is 0.97269992. I'm going to use the full formula. You can make it smaller if you want, but I'm going to put that in. Over here, you can see I've got my two bits of data taken off the formula sheet, the question sheet. So that's what I'm going to start with first. So the first thing I want to do is graph that data. So that data is going to be used and get my general plot. So I need to go insert, and I need to go here where the charts are. So the chart I'm going to do is a scatter plot. At the moment, I'm going to do it on the same screen, but I'll show you my preferred method of working is when we go chart location. I much prefer to work with the chart as a sheet in itself. I have a lot more control over size and so forth. For this video, for the start of it, I'm just going to do it as an object within the sheet so that we can see the data and the dots at the same time. So that's my graph there. That's what I would produce that as a full screen, print it off, draw my line of best fit, and that will give you question 3 done, where you're going to make some predictions from drawing the graph. The next step is question 4, which is around generating your a curve of best fit. So I've generated my formula for that, and now I want to draw that on Excel because we want to be able to display it nicely in Word. So I'm going to put a formula into C2, which is going to give that generate the numbers for me. So 69.4183336 times by 0.972699992. I need to go to the power and my x value, and so that is my x value there. That formula is now in there. It's generating a number, which happens to be my 69.4183, and I'm going to copy that formula. So you can see there, I've moved there, pushing the left mouse button. I'm going to drag those boxes down, and that's now created my formula down to the bottom. So I now have my line curve of fit. So I'll call it curve fit. So that's my predicted line that's going to go with that data. I now want to include this onto my chart. So I'm going to go to my chart, and I'm going to do select data. So you saw that I right clicked and selected data. So at the moment, I've got down here, I've got my temperature selected, and on my x-axis over here, you can see the values for the x-axis. So I need to add some data. So I click this button here called Add. My series name, click on Curve Fit. So now it gives a name for what we're doing here. My x values, I highlight my x values. And then the last thing I need to do is highlight my y values. So it's going to be those ones. And we can go OK. So now I've got Curve Fit. And what you'll notice is here, before I only had blue dots on my graph, I've now got orange dots. That's okay, but really, this is meant to be a trend line, and Excel doesn't draw a very good trend line, so what I want to do is change those orange dots to actually be a nice curve. So I can go down here to Format Data Series, and over here we get a little toolbox over here with the bits and pieces. So here I can change it to my fill, and under line I can now make it go a solid line. I change my color just so I differentiate it from the other dots, and I'm going to change my thickness. I'm going to reduce my thickness. I'm going to go down to be a thinner line because I want it to be sort of like a trend line. Now, I could click away from that and click off those dots. My issue is I've still got those big, huge dots sitting there, which to me still creating me issues because this is a formula, and so it's actually true for all positions on that line. And so I need to go to my marker, and I can say my marker options here, and I can say no marker. Okay, and so that now, if I click off that, it's just got my trend line here with my dots. And so that becomes the chart, a graph I can now use to solve or actually display in my bit. Now the other thing we could do is we need to get out to 60, and so we can actually extend our chart here out to 60, and so we could go here to select data, we could select on curve fit, and we could select edit, and we could change our X values to include all down to 60, and we can change our Y values to include all the values down to where X equals 60, and go OK. And so now you can see my chart has my curve going right down to where it's 60, and I can now read off the values that I require there to read off. And so that way I can extend my chart the way I want to look at. The other thing we can do here is do our residual plot, and remember that is just going to be equal to that if the real data take away our curve data, and again I can copy that down, and now I can do that, hold down control and select that column. Again I can go insert, I want to scatter plot again, and so there's my residual plot. Just like when you did a residual plot for your linear line, it's still showing some form of pattern. It's not random either side. So this is not going to be your best data, but obviously you're going to look at your R and R squared value, and you'll notice that your R squared value is higher, higher for this particular plot compared to the other, compared to the linear plot. To go to the next stage in to this, to get sort of a higher A question, you could look at other curves of fit. As you notice on your calculator, there are a number of other possibilities you could use to do a curve of best fit. Just be careful though, because a lot of them don't like 0. So you might not be able to use time equals 0. So you might have to start from the 5 part, or change the 0 value to another value, like change the times up by 1. So it'll be 1 minute, 6 minutes, 11 minutes, 15 minutes, or something like that. Just, or delete the 0 altogether. That's up to you. You might need to do a little bit of reading about that. But again, that's to go for the high level marks. That's how you, so that's giving you an example of how you can display your data using Excel in a few easy steps.